You boys be quiet down there!
When we last visited Quiz City, our heroes took on a zombie apocalypse and a mad scientist who built a quiz robot. But their adventures aren't over yet. It's time to once again join our heroes Neo McDonald and Geo Kentucky. And this time he isn't the only one in the game from Kentucky. It's Quiz Daisousasen Part 2. This time on the series, we're looking at NGH-042, Quiz Meitantei Neo and Geo, Quiz Daisousasen Part 2. 1992 from SNK. The game size received a modest increase from 34 megs in the first one to 50 megs here in the sequel, so there are minor improvements to the graphic detail this time around. Just like all Neo Geo quiz games, this one has no English language option. In case you didn't catch our video on the first Quiz Daisousasen game from a few years ago, we had a lot of fun discovering 90s trivia questions and a crazy story that was unfortunately never translated to English. So what kind of unknown Neo Geo adventures await our heroes this time around in the sequel? Let's find out. Just like in the first, controlling the game is simple. The 4 trigger buttons select your answers to the quiz questions, A, B, C, or D, while the joystick controls the menus where necessary. And although the first game gave you the choice of either story mode or versus Sugoroku board game mode, the sequel has only the story mode, despite the higher meg count. And like the first, in story mode we can select between 2 different scenarios. Scenario 1, Love Across Time, or Scenario 2, The Client from Outer Space. We'll start with Scenario 1, and right away we're face to face with our client, the Colonel. In actuality, his character is designed after Japanese actor Hisaya Morishige, not Colonel Sanders, though many in Japan have often commented that the actor bore a striking resemblance to the Colonel in his later years. Anyway, in the game this character is supposed to be a scientist. He says he has an important job for the duo, but first he wants to test their quiz skills with 3 questions. And just like in the first game, we can choose to spend our money on bonuses to make the questions a little easier, like a longer time limit or being able to choose the genre of the questions. Here we'll choose the top left option to reduce the number of answer choices in each question to 3 instead of 4. Are you ready? Here's one of the 3 questions we got during a play session. Which one of the following sports can't be played with doubles? A. Tennis, B. Badminton, or C. Soccer? Soccer obviously is the correct answer. Wow, the Colonel looks pretty surprised we were able to answer all those questions, and we're already 8% done with the scenario. The Colonel's mission for the duo is to help him elope with his lover in Japan 50 years ago. What? Exclaims Neo. But indeed, he provides our heroes with a time machine and tells them they have to make sure that his lover named Reiko makes it to their scheduled meetup spot, a flower patch by the ocean, 50 years ago. And with that, we travel from present day 1992 all the way back to 1942 Japan. They climb out of the time machine and are immediately spotted by a soldier. "Stop right there," he yells, but Neo suggests that he lets them go if they can answer quiz questions. "Quiz questions? It's my job to keep this area secure, and you guys sure look pretty suspicious, but well, I do love me a good quiz." This time we buy the genre select bonus and select video games as the question genre. So okay, here we go with some video game questions. In the game Donkey Kong Jr., who has taken Donkey Kong captive? A. Luigi, B. King Kong, C. A turtle, D. Mario. The correct answer is D. Mario. Which of the below games has the same scenario writer as the game Portopia Serial Murder Case? This was an NEC PC 6001 game by Enix that was later ported to systems like the PC-88, MSX, and Famicom. Okay, so I guess we're probably looking for an Enix game here. The choices are A. Dragon Quest, B. F. Fantasy, I think that's short for Final Fantasy, C. Momotaro Densetsu, or D. Dragon Ball. The correct answer is A. Dragon Quest. What's the name of the game similar to Columns featuring Mario? A. Mario Brothers, B. Tetris 2, C. Super Mario, or D. Dr. Mario? The correct answer is D. Dr. Mario. What kind of stupid question is that anyway? In the arcade version of Tetris, what color is the square piece? A. Green, B. Blue, C. Purple, or D. Yellow? If you answered B. Blue, then you are wrong. You're thinking of the arcade Tetris by Atari. In Japanese arcades, they had Sega Tetris, where the square piece is yellow. Well, I'm not supposed to let anyone through here, but you guys beat the quiz. Guess I've got no choice. Neo and Geo find the mansion where Reiko lives, and here we're given a choice of two different routes. We can enter through the front entrance or the backyard. Our heroes choose the front entrance this time around. After quickly dealing with another guard with their quiz prowess, they find Reiko and tell her to hurry to the flower patch for her meeting with the Colonel. I was half expecting her to be like, "What? I have no idea who that Colonel guy is." But instead, it seems that indeed, the Colonel is the man she wants to marry. Before they can go though, they are stopped by the butler, who says he will let Reiko go only if Neo and Geo can clear his panel quiz. This again uses a Jeopardy style board like we saw in the first game. Video games is one of the categories, so here are some more gaming questions. What's the maximum number of party members you can have in Dragon Quest II? A. 4, B. 6, C. 10, or D. 3? The correct answer is D. 3. What company published the PC Engine version of Fantasy Zone? A. Sunsoft, B. Sega, C. NEC Avenue, or D. Hudson? The correct answer is C. NEC Avenue. In Fantasy Zone, what's the initial price of the Big Wings? A. 1,500, B. 500, C. 5,000, or D. 1,000? If you correctly answered B. 500, then wow, you've probably played a lot of Fantasy Zone. In Parodius Da, which of the following isn't one of Pentaro's weapons? A. Double, B. Poton, C. Spread gun, D. Tail gun? Well, let's take a look at Pentaro's weapons in Parodius Da. There actually is something called Poton. I don't see tail gun. That's the correct answer. They take Reiko to the meeting place, but she has a cage dropped on her.
No, don't be slow, the trap is set. Now drop the net. No! Catch a mouse, the mouse trap.
Luckily, the cage has a quiz lock. Quiz locks? When will people learn? This section uses a slot machine system, which gets used a few times in this game. The first slot determines the question genre, the second the difficulty, and the third the number of answers to choose from. Get Reiko out of the cage, and Neo and Geo see someone standing in front of the time machine. It's Kano, Reiko's fiance chosen by her parents. He declares that Reiko belongs to him, and uses his black magic to give Reiko a headache, or something. And as for Neo and Geo, he'll take care of them with a quiz. Of course, Neo and Geo have no trouble clearing the quiz, and Kano runs off. Neo and Geo decide that for now, it's best to get in the time machine and escape with Reiko, but Kano watches them travel through time.
So, Doc Brown invented a time machine.
Geo intends to set the time machine to 1 year in the future, but whoops, he accidentally sets it to 100 years in the future. The time machine breaks when they arrive, so Neo and Geo leave Reiko there while they search for someone to fix the time machine. This whole section in 2042 seems to be highly inspired by Back to the Future Part 2. Kano has become king of the world in this dystopian future. Neo and Geo rescue their future selves, who are being chased by guys riding hoverboards, and they find their detective office in ruins.
The lab is an awful mess.
Future Neo and Geo explain that in their timeline, they failed their assignment to help Reiko and Colonel Sanders, and Kano used the time machine to take over the world. It's never explained how, but I guess he did. Future Neo and Geo have the necessary parts to fix the time machine, but first they have to test our heroes with quiz questions. Wow, they don't even trust themselves.
If you guys are really us, what number are we thinking of?
After they get the parts for the time machine, a mafia boss comes to kill them under orders from Kano. Here we see the return of the up-down quiz from the first game, except this time there's lava at the bottom instead of sharks, and the two characters are hanging together instead of on separate ropes. So if either player gets a question right, they both go up. If both get it wrong, they both go down. This makes it much easier than in the first game. It was the hardest part of the game in the first one. When they get to the top, they're able to steal hoverboards from the Mafia and get away. Back to the time machine, and back to 1942. They head for the meeting place with the Colonel, but of course they are stopped on the way there by the maid and then Reiko's mother, who needs them to answer quiz questions. When they do so successfully, Reiko's mother agrees to allow Reiko to marry Neo and Geo. Wait, I think she's confused. That's understandable, I would be too. So finally to the meeting at the Flower Patch, and the young version of the Colonel is modeled after Japanese actor Yuji Oda. I don't see the resemblance. Of course, the young version of the Colonel has no idea what's going on, and thinks that Neo and Geo have come to steal Reiko away. Quiz questions it is then. What's the most common given name for Japanese men? A. Toru. B. Tagosaku, an old derogatory name for men from rural Japan. C. Taro. D. Hiroshi. Taro sounds like a good guess, but the correct answer is D. Hiroshi. Or at least it was when this game was released anyway. After the quiz, Neo and Geo explain everything. He thanks them and sails happily away with Reiko into the sunset. So just when it looks like a happy ending, Neo and Geo find that the time machine is gone. Oh yeah, they probably should have made sure that Kano didn't steal it and go take over the world. Here we get to do something a little different that wasn't found in the first quiz Daisousasen. It's a find the difference between the two pictures game. This should be a fun break from the quizzes, but it's actually really difficult to find all the differences before the time runs out. Whether you're successful or not determines whether the final section of the story follows one of two routes. In the first route, Neo and Geo find Kano and the time machine before he can use it, and in the second, Kano has already used the time machine to travel to the next day and kidnap Reiko. In both routes, whether you successfully answer the final set of questions within the time limit then determines whether you get a good or bad ending, for a total of 4 different endings. There's a fairly standard ending where Neo and Geo get back in the time machine and see the Colonel happily married to the future Reiko. The most amusing ending is the one you get by clearing everything successfully. It shows the Colonel unhappy in his marriage with Reiko, and he asks our heroes to go back in time again to make his engagement fail instead. We're not done yet though, there's still an entire second scenario. Let's go back and start the game again to play through Scenario 2, the Client from Outer Space. This one sees our heroes team up with a bounty hunter from outer space named Helen.
30 Helens agree.
There's no reason to pick your favorite Helen.
30 Helens agree. A Helen is a Helen.
Helen is searching for 7 aliens who have snatched the bodies of people here on Earth. The only way to defeat them is with quizzes, and when they do, they barf out a space worm that was controlling the snatched human. There's even one point where Neo gets snatched, and player 1 plays as Helen while taking on Neo. At the end, they have to fight with not one, but 2 very big and scary aliens. And what the hell? This one also has 4 endings, including 2 bad endings, where the Earth gets either destroyed or conquered. And in one of the good endings, Neo and Geo are declared galactic heroes and taken away by Helen to live on her home planet. Like the first one, the game's main director and scenario writer was Masanori Kuwasashi, who worked on several SNK games, including the KOF series, and was still active in the industry as of 2022. The illustrations were done by SNK artists at the time who also worked on many famous SNK franchises. The music again was composed by many of the usual SNK suspects: Jojo Hakitapi, Tarkun, Tate Norio, Yoko, and Shimizun. The music in the game is a little better than in the first, but if you'll remember the previous video, I mentioned that it was very forgettable music that you'd probably never want to listen to outside of the game, and that's largely the same story here in the sequel. Are there any hidden SNK gems in the soundtrack? Well, perhaps if you go in with an open mind, you'll find something you like. I mean, who could forget classics like this 14-second loop? Hey, bring it back. That was my jam right there. Like the first, Quiz Daisousasen Part 2 wasn't released for the Neo Geo CD, probably for similar reasons. By the time the Neo Geo CD was released in the latter part of 1994, the questions were already becoming dated. Plus, the game's quiz format isn't well suited for the home market. And whereas the first game had a Korean language version released by Vicom, the second game was never released in any languages other than Japanese. So that's Quiz Meitantei Neo Geo, Quiz Daisousasen Part 2. For the most part, it's more of the same craziness that we saw in the first one, with a slight increase to the graphic fidelity of the scenes. I noticed that this one uses the likenesses of Japanese TV and movie personalities almost exclusively, whereas the first one had more Hollywood celebrities that would be recognizable to Western audiences. This one also feels a bit slimmer on content due to the lack of the versus-style Sugoroku mode that was in the first one. However, they did try to make up for it by giving each scenario 4 different endings. I guess that means this game has a total of 8 endings. I wonder who they thought would play through the game 8 times to see them all. But now you should have a pretty good idea of what the game is all about, so you don't have to. Thank you for watching another episode of Neo Geo Generation. Next time we'll be looking at NGH-043, 3-count bout, aka Fire Suplex, the only true wrestling game released for Neo Geo. This game looks and sounds great, but is this one worth your time, or is it a total train wreck? Please join me next time as we dive in and find out. Until then, go play some Neo Geo. This is Neo Alec signing off.